Hi everybody, my name is Sunshine. This is intermediate traditional staff. This was a huge class and we plowed through way more material than I thought we would ever get to in one class, but you guys were so amazing that you probably don't even need to be watching this video right now. So, we're going to start off with the 3-beat. What we did in intro staff was we learned around the world and we learned pinwheels, which are all stemmed from 2 beats. The 2-beat is where you're beating twice on each side of your body in wheel plane. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. We learned the 3-beat. The way the 3-beat is introduced is in front of your body. When you're getting ready to put your first wick back behind you, that's for me the red one, instead of putting the wick behind me, I overextend my wrist so that my wrist wraps around the staff like this. The only way you can overextend is if your wrist is below your elbow height. If you're up here, you're going to find it really difficult to overextend properly. It's really important that to do it, you keep your hand low. And there's just this little pop that happens in your elbow that allows it to wrap around the staff. Once you're wrapped, then put the staff behind you and unwrap it, and then come back in front as you normally would. Overextend, behind, unwrap. Overextend, behind, unwrap. So I'm going to count it now. 1, 2, overextend to get 3. Behind you, unwrap. 1, 2, 3. Back in front as we normally do. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Make sure you practice this in both hands, otherwise you'll end up crippled, like me, where I can only perform basically with one side of my body. After the 3-beat, we learn the 4-beat, which is basically the same idea. When we unwrap behind us, instead of leading with our thumb side like we normally would for beat 1, we continue to wrap behind us, wrapping up kind of into our armpit space, and then we lead in front with our pinky side of the staff. Usually we lead in front with the thumb side. This time we're leading with the pinky side. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wrap up. Unwrap. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lead with the pinky. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. After that, I talked about how to do this cool 3-beat stall, which happens once you wrap up after doing the 3rd beat. Instead of putting it behind you and unwrapping, you take what will be your back foot and put it in front, and then bring the staff up to stall on your shoulders. So through the flow, it looks like this. From the stall, we talked about either just dropping the staff down to the other side, and then you can do that again. You can do this repeatedly. Don't drop it. Or drop it, because that means you're learning. After the 3-beat stall, we worked on anti-spin. Anti-spin is when the prop is rotating in the opposite direction that your arm is rotating. Anti-spin, we broke it down into 4 moves. So we were all facing the same direction. We pick one side of the staff head to be isolating horizontally. That's going to be our leading side. We go 1, horizontal and out. 2, vertical with our thumb facing the ground. 3, this is the tricky one because what was the top of the staff needs to drop behind our head to point out away from us from the other direction. And then 4, what was behind us drops through our armpit space as we come back in front of us to where we started, thumb on the sky side of the staff. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Practice this on both sides and practice it in both directions. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can go either way, and it's pretty cool to suddenly reverse your anti-spin direction mid-performance or mid-move. After anti-spin, we worked on isolations, which is the same basic principle, except that instead of moving the staff across our body, we move our body around the staff. This can be practiced in most different ways. You can move your body in circles, you can move the staff in circles. If you're having an issue reaching up high enough to get the staff to isolate properly, you can drop the height of your staff so that your hand is closer to the top wick. It'll make it easier to get around. Just remember that if you're on the shorter side, dropping the height of the staff may mean interrupting the ground. Horizontal around the world. First class we did around the world in wall plane. Now we're doing horizontal around the world in floor plane, which basically happens doing a rotor in floor plane above your head. Whenever you're ready, dropping down the staff behind your back, passing it to the other hand any way you can, and bringing it back. The bulk of the beats in this move are happening in front of you. The pass behind you can literally just be an arc that involves only one beat. Arc behind, and then I'm just back up. Do this as long as I want, behind and back up. After horizontal around the world, we did horizontal pinwheels. So the horizontal around the world again is this. To turn it into a horizontal pinwheel, a pinwheel happens completely behind our body. So doing the horizontal pinwheel is this. So it's the exact same thing as a pinwheel, except that my chest is facing the ground. Normal pinwheel, horizontal pinwheel. If you've got a weak lower back like I do, make sure you're bending your knees and sticking your butt out so that you don't hurt your back. We did neck wraps briefly in intro staff. We did neck wraps again in intermediate staff. Putting up with your dominant hand and catching with your non-dominant hand. This is my dominant hand. I put it up so that the center line is over my cervical spine or my neck. Around the neck, catch it with your non-dominant hand. Practice that in both directions. From this we talked about that you can enter the neck wrap and start teaching yourself steves, which is a contact move. A steve looks like this, without hitting yourself in the face. This is not my staff. So from a neck wrap, you can practice the second half of it, where the staff comes up the arm. And then we talked about how you could potentially turn that into a burn-off move by doing the neck wrap, and then as it rolls up your arm, giving your arm a real snap, and the friction, making sure to push against the staff and drawing your arm back quickly is going to make the staff spin quickly, and you can actually create a burn-off type thing by doing the steve, the half steve. Don't try this until you've practiced it a whole hell of a lot, not on fire. We made sure to cover the principles of how a burn-off actually works, which is just a simple push-pull with your hands. I made sure that everybody understood the placement. Your non-dominant hand is on the bottom. The staff sits on the base of your palm. Your dominant hand fingertips sit on top of the staff, and you push and pull. You don't start like this and then push. You start totally offset so that you have the maximum amount of movement in your hands. A common misconception is that burn-offs involve throwing the staff really high. It has nothing to do with height. I've seen amazing burn-offs that happen right in front of the performer's face. It has nothing to do with height. It's all about the speed at which you're snapping your hands when you're releasing them. After burn-offs, we worked on tosses and we worked on recovering from a drop. The toss, we talked about leading with our thumb side. The easiest way to practice this is coming out of a 2-beat. As you enter your front side with beat 1, just simply throw the staff up, leading with your pinky. Let it do 1 full revolution. So if I'm starting with the red side here, when I catch it, the red side's going to be back here. If you're afraid of doing this with a full revolution, you can practice it just with a half revolution, just to get the feel of what it feels like to let go of the staff. Make sure to practice this in both hands. I never did that, and now I can't really catch a toss with my left hand. So again, 2-beat leading with your thumb, throw it up, and catch it. You'll kind of learn by doing this during the day how to gauge your staff, how to figure out how to catch it, which is determined totally by where the staff heads are when they're rotating through space. It's difficult to teach it. You kind of just have to drop your staff a whole lot before you learn how to do it. And then the last thing that we worked on was recovering from a drop. We talked about if you've dropped your staff, I'm not going to demonstrate it because I'm a clean pink shirt, but if you've dropped your staff, you can do a somersault over it where you plant your hands on the staff and then go into the somersault, bringing the staff back up as you stand up. We also talked about picking it up from a cartwheel, which you can do by doing the cartwheel in line with the length of the staff. You can't really do it across the staff like this. You could, but you're going to end up doing more of a round off, and you'll come up and you won't be able to start rotating. So make sure you're cartwheeling with the length of the staff so that when you do the cartwheel, you can come up spinning. I think that's all that we did. So thank you so much. My name is Sunshine, intermediate staff.